Hello, welcome to my channel. This is my first YouTube video and I'm going to do a painting of the Beast of Gévaudan, or as they say in France, le Bête de Gévaudan. As you can see, I tried some different angles on this. All I knew I wanted was to have a vintage-y 1800s kind of picture. So I wanted those little accents like I've got in the bottom corners there, the sort of swirly intricate things, but instead of having leaves and flowers like they'd normally have, I put little wolf heads and tails on them, and some little flourishes around in the corners. There's a full moon on one. Is it a full moon? No, I think it's a crescent moon. Crescent moon on one side and a little sun on the other. And yeah, I just wanted to have that old sort of look. So I looked at a lot of kind of medieval art and art from the sort of time period, and that's where I went with. So now we're speeding up the video now. This is going to be the first part of probably 3 videos because I'm not exactly quick. I am quite slow worker, so even sped up 20 times it's going to take probably 3 videos. Now the pens I'm using here, you can see, are the sepia pit pens from Faber-Castell, and I mainly use this one. This is the super fine one. That's generally my go-to pen. I will sometimes use the fine when I'm adding line weight. Generally the medium, which is this one, I'll only use for sort of borders or line work where I'm using a ruler or something. And then finally I have the brush pen, the brush nib, which is good, but it's, you know, it's not as controlled as the fine tip pens. So off we go. I'm working on my light pad, as you can see, and I've already taped my original sketch to the back of my Arch watercolour paper, which is a 300 gram hot press paper, which is my favourite one. I do love the cold press, but I just find it very difficult to work with, particularly if you're using a pen. But so yeah, you'll have to excuse the editing and my big head coming into shot sometimes because this is all new to me, but fingers crossed I'll get better, and you never know, we might end up with some decent videos one day in the future, many years to come. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing here is I'm just literally lining over the entire illustration. I'm keeping a mixture, a very light mixture of kind of line weight. I'm just doing like a flat line, and then I'll use a broken kind of dotted line on an area where I want to keep the line weight at its lightest. What I will do at some point soon is I will skip ahead. I'll keep this running for a little while so you get to see how I'm inking it. But then I'll skip ahead to the point where I've gone over all of the line work with a basic pass, just very light, and then I'll go back in and add line weight. As you can see, I have a piece of paper under my palm at almost all times. I just don't want to get any sweaty marks. Ooh, that's pleasant. Sweaty marks all over my picture, which might affect the painting process later, because it can do that particularly if you've got greasy skin. Not that I've got greasy skin, but Now I also, I mean, I get very dry hands, but I don't moisturise my hands at all when I'm working, so they get, you'll probably notice them get quite dry throughout this video. So here we are, now we've jumped ahead, and now the entire picture has had its outline done in a very light path, very basic, but now I'm going over it all bit by bit, gradually adding line weight to the areas I think need it. I tend to do the line weight, which is I suppose what most people do, but I've never asked anyone, but I will add the darker, heavier, thicker lines to the areas which I think are in shadow, and the areas which I think are catching light I tend to keep the line weight thinner. So I think it works. I mean, I've only been using this process with a pen and ink for the last 6 months, so I'm still quite new to inking. I have inked in the past black and white line work for children's books. I've done a lot of Macbeth and different Shakespeare plays, but I did those with India ink and a sable brush, very fine sable brush. But yeah, I've never really taken to pens, but I just took a gamble recently, and I thought, you know, I'll try it out, because I never had much interest in line work, but now I find the line work is almost my favourite part. I really enjoy it. So yeah, I'm converted. I enjoy the line art. I used to just rush it through. See, now I'm adding those sort of heavier lines into the areas of shadow, and then keeping the lines quite light in the areas where I imagine the light source is coming from, which is, I would say, the top right hand side, but it's kind of a misty, snowy, overcast kind of light, so there's no any super bright highlights or anything like that. But you've got to imagine like you know, just the brightness of a snow-filled sky illuminating it. Now, I've been familiar with the Beast of Gévaudan for many years now. It always seems to keep cropping up in my life. Many years ago, when I was at university, my friends and I, on our course, we were doing our animation course, got to visit the Jim Henson's Creature Shop in London, and the one room we went in, there was this incredible full-size armour-plated lion suspended from the ceiling with spikes and bones and antlers coming out of its back, and it was really bizarre. And I remember we asked the guy who was showing us around what it was for, and he was very cagey about it. Obviously they didn't want to say too much about it, but he said it was from some film about, or TV show with armour-plated lions, and we just thought, oh cool, that sounds cool. Yeah, and just thought no more of it until probably about a year later, after I finished university. I went to a late night showing of 2 films on Halloween, and one was the werewolf film Ginger Snaps, and the other one was Brotherhood of a Wolf, which just happened to be the story of the Beast of Gévaudan. And sure enough, as soon as the creature came in, I thought, I recognise that, that's that armour-plated lion. And so I waited to the credits, and of course it said effects done by Jim Henson's Creature Shop. So it was really amazing to get to see it, and to you know, got to have seen it in the process of being made. So yeah, no, really cool. It's a brilliant film as well. I highly recommend it. Although they did go down a slightly alternative route of saying it was a lion rather than a wolf-like creature, but we'll get on to that in a minute. I'll talk about the actual creature. But I think it was probably about 3 or 4 years later, I was holidaying in France, and went to a little town there, and sure enough, this region of France, unbeknownst to me, used to be Gévaudan. It's, you know, it's broken up to different place name, different name now, the area, but all the way through this amazing little French town where wolf statues everywhere. There were wolf heads on the walls with bronzed wolf heads with water spurting out of their mouths, and there were huge statues of these wolf-like creatures, and there was all this signage and plaques about talking about the Bête de Gévaudan. So yeah, again, very weird. I'll talk a little bit about the actual story. Well, it's not a story, it is based on true events, but it's a true story. Now this is just coming from my knowledge. It's not from Wikipedia at all, I promise. It was reported that during the time of between 1764 and 1767, a wolf-like creature was said to have killed and partially eaten, pleasant, up to 500 victims. Most of those were women and children. So the beast was described to have been a wolf-like canine with a tall, lean frame, taking huge strides. It was said to have an elongated head similar to that of a greyhound, with a flattened snout, pointed ears and a wide mouth sitting atop a broad chest, and the beast's fur was described as being tawny or reddish. So that's what I've kind of gone for. The other thing that is mentioned throughout the descriptions, eyewitness accounts, because some people did survive. There were a lot of eyewitness accounts, and the beast was said to have been shot multiple times and would just rise up and run off into the woods. The other thing was its tail. It was said to have a really long tail in proportion to its body, a really long thin tail with a tuft of hair on the end, so I suppose like a lion's tail in a way, more like that of a cat. There were also reports that it may have been a hyena escaped from some zoological garden, but it became a huge story of the time, and even the King of France at the time, which I'm guessing was called Louis, because I think most of them were, put up huge rewards to kill the beast, and even sent his own private soldiers and bodyguards in to try and slay the creature. But yeah, it's a fascinating story, and supposedly the very first kind of huge shocking news story in history, because there were posters and a print campaign all over France warning of the beast and describing it, and it was very much sensationalised to the French public, and it took their mind off revolution at least for a few years. You can see that I'm gradually working my way around the painting now. It's a time-consuming process, but it's actually really, I find it really therapeutic doing this stage. Not stressful at all, whereas sometimes I find the painting side of things can get quite stressful, particularly when things aren't looking, the painting's not going the way I thought it would go. But with the inking, I just, I don't know, just find it very therapeutic, and that's generally why I stick with the superfine pen, so I can just gradually build up the line, rather than go straight in and it be absolutely perfect straight away. I will just gradually go in, build up that line, thicken it gradually. I I've added my signature already, but you'll see in probably second or third part of this series that I actually go in and do quite a lot more work on the line work after the painting process is done, or partially done at least. So I'm never quite settled with it, because you never know until you start getting the colours on there. You want certain elements of the picture to really pop and pop out of the page, and so sometimes it's useful to go back in afterwards and do that line work, and also the line work can get lost sometimes as well. So this picture, I would say I probably do the most extra work on the line work than any other ones I've done before towards the end, but you get the overall look of it now. It's mostly on the creature itself and on the lady, where I go back in and just strengthen the line a little bit more later on in the it would probably be the third video. So yeah, so the next video will be me doing. I will use sepia ink and a brush. It's not a waterproof sepia ink though, which I didn't know when I first used it, but I like the effect of it. It is water soluble, but it's quite staining, so it doesn't just wash away as soon as you lay a wash of watercolour over it. But yeah, no, I'll go more into that in that video and talk about the process of how I use that sepia ink. But and then we'll just see how it goes, see how long that video is working out. If there's enough time, then I will probably be a combination of ink wash and start the painting process in the second video, because I expect the painting will be the longest part of it, so I may need to split that into the second video as well as the third video. So here we go. So we're coming to the end of the video now. It's been fun. I've actually really enjoyed editing. This is the first time I've ever edited a video like this in any way. So yeah, it's been interesting, despite the fact that I have to listen to my own voice, which I absolutely can't bear. It's been good. So yeah, no, if you do enjoy this video and you'd like to see more, then please give it a like, subscribe, and click that notification bell, and then you'll know when the next part comes out. And hopefully this will become a regular thing. I've got a setup here now. I've got my tripod above the table. I've got all my lighting, so I'm gradually getting used to filming myself working, keeping an eye on the battery levels and all of that, but it's not been anywhere near as disruptive to my working process as I thought it would be. But yeah, so also, if you want to, look in the description below. There should be a link to my Etsy store, where I make prints available worldwide of my latest artworks. So this one's on there, the Beast of Gévaudan, and at some point, if people are interested in original work, I will think about putting some of my original pieces up on there as well. They're quite sizable. This one is larger than, well, it's around A2, roughly A2 I would say the image is. So yeah, it's quite large. We'll need quite a big frame, but yeah, thank you very much for joining me and watching this video. Please like it if you do. That's brilliant. Take care. See you next time.